Buenos días a todos, bienvenidos a este live con Keishava en nuestra serie con los maestros de los Himalayas. Estamos aquí un día más para continuar con la serie ahora de principios fundamentales del Yoga Vedanta. En este capítulo de hoy vamos a hablar de los sistemas secundarios de conocimiento hindú. En el video anterior hablamos de los principales y hoy vamos a hablar de las escuelas secundarias de conocimiento hindú. Entonces voy a darle la bienvenida a Keishava. Thank you so much, Keishava, to be here one more day, sharing your wonderful knowledge.
Thank you, namaste.
And we are ready to learn about the secondary systems of knowledge in India. So you are welcome to start whenever you want. I will translate. Thank you so much.
Okay. So we were looking into the systems of knowledge. So we have seen the Vedas.
Mm-hmm.
Vedas are the primary source, and all the other branches can be traced back to the roots in the Veda. And also one point I would like to mention. The last time I said Veda is. So in the tradition, Veda is considered as equal to 1,000 mothers. You know, Sahasra Matru. Sahasra Matruvat means the Veda is like equal to 1,000 mothers. Like so, it's Veda is giving the knowledge to taking away from the samsara. I mean, bailing out us from samsara. So seeing the truth, realizing oneself. So in that sense, it's not a commands. You know, it's not like it's only a descriptive. It's not a prescriptive. It's not like a do's and don'ts. You should not do like this. You should do like this. It's not like that. It's only a descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a prescriptive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I wanted to make it clear. So yeah.
Okay. Los Vedas, que es el conocimiento tradicional hindú, el más primordial, se hace una comparación con que son como 1000 madres de conocimiento, ¿ok? 1000 madres es como el referente que se hace. Y es muy importante que no son cosas estructuradas o cosas que hay que creer. Es conocimiento de la verdad. Esto es muy importante, no es algo escrito que hay que creer, sino es conocimiento que lleva a la liberación del ciclo de samsara. Vamos a esperar a que se conecte de nuevo. Vamos a esperar que Keishava se conecte de nuevo para continuar. Estas escuelas de India, esa estructura es bien compleja porque la verdad es muy infinita. Entonces ellos estructuraron todo muy bien. Y realmente tener la posibilidad de comprender toda esa estructura y todo ese conocimiento, para mí yo me siento muy afortunada realmente. Keishava es una persona con un conocimiento increíble y una energía bien increíble también. Vamos a esperar que entre en pantalla. Ya está, entrando. quién sabe, no ha podido conectarse. Vamos a esperar un poquito. Sí, es el internet. Tómense un tiempito para agarrarse un tecito. Que vamos a ver por qué no puede entrar. Voy a invitarle de nuevo. Voy a intentar entrar, si no, pues intentamos otro. Hello, Keshava. I can... Uy, lo veía, pero no. Yes, now I can see you.
Okay. I don't know, it's going off and it says it's not your fault, like that it says there.
It says it's not your fault, it says?
Yeah, it's not my fault, it says there.
No problem. Let's try, and if everything works, we continue. Otherwise, we do it another day.
Yeah.
Now I can see you and listen to you perfectly. Did you change of device?
No, it went off, so I connected another device. It went
Okay.
off first.
Okay.
Maybe I have to change the internet. I changed the other one.
Okay. Let's try. No problem. Yeah. Now we are live. Yes.
So, so the Veda is like a Sahasra Matravat, like 1,000 mothers. Yeah. And it's not prescriptive, like you do and you should not. It's only descriptive, you know. In that sense, I said it's not sacred. In that sense, you can also question, and you can also question, and you can also explore, and because you have to experience for yourself. You know what is said in the Veda, that's about you, and you have to experience within you. So in that sense, it is not like a sacred. It is very very sacred, but in the sense, at the same time, you can also question it, and you can understand. You know, in that sense, so it is both sacred and also not sacred. So
yes. Los Vedas es muy importante comprender que es algo que se puede cuestionar, no es algo estructurado que tenemos que creer, ¿ok? Como hablamos el otro día, es algo muy sagrado porque los Vedas es un conocimiento muy sagrado, pero por otra parte no es sagrado porque se puede cuestionar. Entonces ahí está ese juego de que nosotros los Vedas es algo que tenemos que experienciar internamente, es un conocimiento que debemos experienciar, autorrealizar. Entonces, por esa parte no es algo fijo que debemos simplemente creer, sino experienciar.
Yeah. So why I am saying this, because in certain religions, you know, you cannot question the book. It's a revelation, and God revealed, and nobody can question. So you know, whatever is said, you have to swallow. You have to accept it, and there's no way. So here it's not like that. So you can question, you can understand, because it's all revealing yourself, the truth. You know. So in that sense, I was in that context, I was telling, like, it's not sacred.
Entonces es muy importante porque en muchas religiones no se puede cuestionar el libro sagrado, porque es revelado por Dios y eso es incuestionable. Tienes que tragarte todo lo que dice, tienes que tragarlo y aceptarlo tal cual es, sin cuestionamiento, sin experimentarlo, tienes que aceptarlo como una fe. Aquí no es así. Los Vedas se pueden cuestionar, se llama al cuestionamiento, que es la autoindagación, para conseguir autorrealizarlo, experienciarlo tú mismo y ahí poder saber que eso es la verdad, no solo por creerlo.
Yeah. So now, these are the primary teachings, and they are more like a philosophical and more abstract, you know. But then these teachings are expanded in secondary, in the Smritis. So the teachings of the Vedas only expanded for more common people, and you know, so it's like so nirguna, saguna, with more expansion, and you know, so this is what we call it secondary. It's called Smritis. You know, Shruti. These are the two divisions. Shruti is the Veda, the primary source, and the Smriti is So that which comes from that later expanded. So that's what.
Muy bien. Entonces ahora vamos a ver la parte secundaria, lo que acabamos de ver en la clase anterior son los Vedas, que es la parte, el conocimiento principal, y ahora vamos a ver los conocimientos secundarios. El principal es más filosófico, este es más práctico, entonces vamos a ver cuáles son ese conocimiento secundario, esas escuelas de conocimiento secundario.
Yeah. So under the Smritis, so Smriti means, the literal meaning is to remember. Smru, remember. Smriti means that which remember. So that the people, those who have experienced the teachings of the Veda, so they have given again their teachings, So they become all Smritis. So let us see now. Under the Smriti, we have what is called Dharma Shastra. So Dharma Shastra, yeah. So Dharma Shastra is what you call the axiology, axiology. So that means the science of values and lifestyle, dharma, dharma, the lifestyle values, so that is what the Dharma Shastra. So the values, code of conduct, civil and social laws, so this is what so the Dharma Shastras reveal.
Okay. Okay. La primera parte que se estudia en las escuelas secundarias es el Dharma Shastra, que es axiología, que son como el Dharma, los valores sociales, la parte de la sociedad, los valores, la parte civil, el compartir, eso es lo que se estudia en el Dharma Shastra.
Yeah. So the code of conduct and the sacramental. So it's called samskara karma. Samskara means the purificatory procedure. So and how to live in the how to live our life harmoniously in the world. Living in a symbiotic life. You have to take care of the nature will take care of you, and your duties, your responsibilities, other dharmas. And also the duties, the samskara, the sacramental. So, human life, there are so many purificatory rituals are there. So, all these things are given in this Dharma Shastras.
Entonces, en esta parte de Dharma Shastra se estudia toda la parte de cómo vivir en sociedad, cómo vivir esta vida, el código civil, el código social entre las personas para vivir también en simbiosis con la naturaleza, cómo vivir en armonía con los otros seres humanos, con la naturaleza, proteger la naturaleza para que la naturaleza lo proteja a uno. Todo esto, que es el Dharma también, se llama Samskara Karma, todo esto se estudia en esta parte, en Dharma Shastra.
Yeah. So, these Dharma Shastras and also in general, Smritis, these Smritis can be reinterpreted according to time. So the Shruti is you cannot reinterpret, but the Smriti can be reinterpreted according to the time. Even the Dharma can change. So a particular code of conduct, etc., for a particular period of time may not be applicable now. So we have to interpret. We have to reinterpret.
Yes,
so,
yes.
So this is what the point. So you have to understand that. So Smritis can be interpreted. So yeah, according to time and the place, you can reinterpret. Yeah.
Entonces esta parte de las escuelas, de la parte secundaria, puede ser reinterpretada. Esto es muy importante porque los Vedas no son reinterpretados, son mantenidos, ese conocimiento siempre es eterno, pero esta parte, como es de conducta, puede reinterpretarse dependiendo del momento vital, de la sociedad y del año donde se esté estudiando esto, porque son códigos de conducta y, por supuesto, son muy diferentes hace miles de años que ahora. Entonces, son una base que debe ser reinterpretada en cada era y en cada época.
Yeah. So now after Dharma Shastras, okay, Dharma Shastra we have famous Dharma Shastras. So like Manu Dharma Shastra, Yajnavalkya, Parashara, like under 15 others. So there are from time to time, so because it comes from thousands of years of history we have, So from time to time there are so many are there, 15 plus 3. So total 18 of them are there, This Dharma Shastra is like a constitution, like a constitution. You know,
Yes, yes.
in the constitution, what happens? You know, time to time, new laws will come. Old laws become
Yes.
obsolete, so new laws will come according to the situation. You know, so
Yes, yes, yes.
once upon a time, there is no cyber laws. Now there are cyber laws because the whole thing is changing. You know,
Yes, yes,
so
yes.
in that sense, so they can be reinterpreted, and we do keep on, you know, reinterpreting without losing the spirit of it. You know,
Yes, 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 yes. Entonces, por ejemplo, en estos Dharma Shastra hay diferentes creados, hay hasta 18, y es lo que se podría equiparar con la Constitución que conocemos ahora, donde están todas las leyes. Las leyes van cambiando y la Constitución se va actualizando. Entonces, es lo mismo, pero lo importante es que no pierda la esencia, el espíritu. Entonces, se va adaptando, pero manteniendo la línea, el espíritu y la esencia. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So now let us go to so Yoga Upanishad we have seen already. Okay, now Itihasa. So Itihasa. Next one is Itihasa. So Itihasa means Itihasa. So means like a history. So history of the lore, you know. So all the people, all the cultural history of the people, those who lived, you know. So enlightened people and you know, their lifestyle and their teachings in the past, in the distant past, you know, in the lore. That is what is Itihasa. So that means Itihasa means it was like that. That means it's a history. You know? So you can say it's a history of the civilization, of the people, those who followed these Vedas and the Upanishads and the Dharma Shastras, and how they have lived, and their life becomes again like a teachings again, you know. That's what it is.
Hay otra, entonces la siguiente parte se llama Itihasa, que sería como la historia. Y fíjense que aquí ellos se focalizan en la historia de los seres iluminados. Entonces ahí en esa parte se cuenta la historia de cómo diferentes personas a lo largo de la historia han llevado los Vedas y se han iluminado. Esa es la historia para ellos. Observen la diferencia con el occidente, ¿ok? Lo que recuerdan. Ahí se recuerda cómo diferentes personas llevaron los Vedas y en su vida se fueron autorrealizando. Esa es la historia que se cuenta ahí, la historia de personas que consiguieron autorrealizarse, ¿no?
Yeah. So in the Itihasas, it's a cultural history, and in the Itihasas we have two main Itihasas. They are called epics, you know, epics.
Epics, yeah.
So, yeah. So they are Ramayana and Mahabharata. These are the Itihasas we have. So one is Ramayana, the other one is Mahabharata. Yeah. So Ramayana is Ramayana talks about the story. This is the story of Rama, Sri Rama. You know. So this is the teachings of Vedas are like you know, the living example of the teachings of the Vedas. You know. So how you, when you follow your dharmas, your dharma and your duties, and you know, and follow the teachings of the Vedas and Dharma Shastras, how your life will be. So that is the life of Sri Rama. It is so influential. The whole day-to-day activities and our values and our relationships with the family, you know, all is governed by the teachings of the Rama and the life of Rama. So very influential, Sri Rama. And also Rama is considered to be the incarnation of the Vishnu. You know, yeah.
Ok, entonces en esa parte, por ejemplo, hay dos, se cuentan esa historia por épicos, por historias épicas, y las dos más importantes son el Ramayana y el Mahabharata. Entonces, dentro de ellas, el Ramayana es la historia de Sri Rama, que supuestamente es la reencarnación del propio Vishnu, y hoy en día incluso tiene muchísima influencia en la sociedad, en cómo está estructurada, en las partes de las relaciones familiares, de todo lo que se aprende en esa historia épica que es el Ramayana. Ha influenciado mucho la sociedad hindú de las cosas básicas, y esto es en los propios Vedas hechos en la historia de Rama.
Yeah. So it is so influential that each and every part of India, so each and every regional language, they have their own their own interpretation of Ramayana, you know. So their own version of Ramayana. And the original Ramayana is in Sanskrit. But then each and every language, you know, we have so many languages in India. Each and every language, there is the other people they have written. They're taking the teachings and they have written their own. So they influence. Yes. And so much of poetry, drama, theater based on this Ramayana is all over. Not only in India, is all East Asia. You know, like Thailand, Cambodia, you can see after that.
Yes,
so it's influence. And so yes, this is like a very substratum of the culture, Indian culture.
Uh-huh. Este Ramayana es muy importante en toda India. Se puede encontrar versiones del Ramayana y la original está en sánscrito, pero en India hay más de 600 lenguas y en cada una ha sido traducida e interpretada por diferentes sabios. Entonces se pueden conseguir muchas diferentes versiones del Ramayana. Y no solamente ha influenciado la sociedad hindú, sino todo el sureste asiático y el este asiático, como por ejemplo en Tailandia también se consigue Rama, en Indonesia, en muchos lugares. Entonces tiene mucha influencia esta historia épica del Ramayana en toda Asia. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's not only values and ethics on our social life, family life, how to live, you know, but so much of yoga is there, so much of spiritual wisdom is there in the Ramayana.
Uh-huh. Entonces, no solamente es cómo vivir, cómo relacionarse con otras personas, hay mucho desarrollo espiritual, mucho de yoga en ese Ramayana y mucho de conocimiento personal.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So now, and the other one is Mahabharata. So, uh-huh. Mahabharata. So, this is another great epic. So, Maha means great. You know, in Sanskrit, uh-huh. Maha means great. So, Mahabharata. Yes. So this is also like the teachings, the Vedic teachings are explained through the characters, you know, the people, mm-hmm. those who live. So it's a story of the kings, you know. So kings and the families, you know. So this is like a huge, you know, so much of yoga there, so much of not only all the values and ethics, but social life, plus a lot of spiritual wisdom also there. Mm-hmm. And in that only, so the Krishna. So Krishna is another incarnation of Vishnu. So Krishna's story. It's basically Krishna's story. I mean, Krishna's appearance in the Mahabharata. Yes. And the famous philosophical treatise. So Bhagavad Gita also is a part of
Mahabharata. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Entonces, la otra historia épica muy importante es el Mahabharata. Y ahí se habla de la historia de los reyes. Y esta es la historia de Krishna. ¿Okay? El otro era de Rama, pero ambas son encarnaciones de Vishnu. ¿Okay? Y el Bhagavad Gita es parte de este Mahabharata. Y ahí también hay muchísimo conocimiento también de la sociedad, de cómo estructurar una sociedad, llevársela bien, pero también mucho desarrollo personal, de yoga, de espiritualidad. Está lleno de conocimiento profundo esos libros.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, the important thing is Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is considered to be an encyclopedia of all the philosophical thought, you know. And you know, all the yogas, you know, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, you know, Jnana Yoga, these are very nicely explained there in a day-to-day context, you know. So in the Upanishads, it's more like abstract, you know. Mm-hmm. But those teachings are explained more elaborately and more simplified. At the same time, it's a profound. At the same time, very simple. So mm-hmm. These are the you know, how we can follow the teachings of the Vedas and Upanishads in our day-to-day life. Without living the life, I mean, living in our life, day-to-day life, how we can follow these teachings. So that is the Bhagavad Gita.
Uh-huh. Y en el Bhagavad Gita es muy importante porque nos muestra el conocimiento yógico y espiritual, todos los yogas, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, todos esos yogas adaptados a la vida diaria. Entonces, en ese Bhagavad Gita podemos ver cómo esos yogas se han llevado a la práctica, y eso es lo interesante, porque no tenemos que dejar la vida normal, la vida de sociedad, para practicarlos, porque en los Upanishads es más abstracto la explicación que hay de esos yogas, pero en el Bhagavad Gita se explica más de la manera práctica que con nosotros podemos practicar el yoga, cómo se hace yoga en la vida diaria. Ahí está en el Bhagavad Gita muy bien explicado.
Yeah. So, and So Upanishads is the Bhagavad Gita is considered as a essence of the Upanishads, and Mahabharata as such is considered as a fifth Veda. So it's given a status of fifth Veda. So Mahabharata is status of fifth Veda. Why? Because it is so comprehensive. It gives all the essence of all the Vedas, So Purva, the Veda Purva, Vedanta, the whole thing is like nicely presented. That is why it gets a status of Panchama Veda, fifth Veda.
Ok. Entonces, el Bhagavad Gita se considera que tiene la esencia de los Upanishads, que lo vimos el otro día. Y esto es muy importante, el Mahabharata es tan potente que se le considera el quinto Veda. Saben que hay 4 libros principales de los Vedas y el Mahabharata tiene tanto conocimiento que se considera como el quinto Veda.
So this is the these are the itihasas, epics.
Epics, yeah.
Now comes, we have what is called the Purana.
Purana.
Yeah. So Puranas. So Purana is it's difficult to translate. So people translate as mythology. In English, this is a mythology, but it's not mythology. It's all you can say. This is also like a story. So story even much more much more older than the itihasas, you can say. So in the Puranas, you can see all the sages, the enlightened people teaching giving their teachings to people, and they quote Vedas and whatever is said in the Vedas and Upanishads only. So they are explaining in a much more simplified language, and also through stories, through stories and symbols, symbolism. So Puranas are full of symbolism.
Ok, sí, ya. Entonces, lo siguiente que podríamos hablar son los Puranas, que es lo que se traduce como mitología, pero en verdad no es mitología, es historia igual, pero mucho más antigua incluso, ¿ok? Ahí habla de buscadores, de sabios, de seres que vinieron a enseñar el conocimiento aquí, el conocimiento antiguo de los Vedas, pero de una manera mucho más sencilla. Entonces, se habla también, se enseñan todo este conocimiento a través de historias y a través de simbología.
Yeah, it's a more stories and symbolism for people, ordinary people, everybody can understand, through stories. So it's a big tradition. We have a huge tradition of storytelling. Through stories, you explain everything, like.
Yes.
Of course, you cannot take the symbols, stories literally. So that's a problem. So the problem is you can explain the whole thing in the stories and symbols. At the same time, the problem is always misinterpreted. When you take literally, there's a misinterpretation. So that's the thing. But then it's a huge. So many are there.
Yes.
Still, very much influencing the society spiritually through stories, etc.
Entonces, estos Puranas se enseñan a través de muchas historias, muchos cuentos que tienen muchísimo conocimiento sobre estos seres iluminados. Es gigante la cantidad de historias para pasar ese conocimiento espiritual que hay y todavía influencia en India de una manera grandísima. El problema aquí es que la gente se los tome literales, porque son historias para ser interpretadas, porque son cuentos que llevan el conocimiento y es una forma de transmitir ese conocimiento, pero son para ser interpretadas y sacarles el conocimiento, no para creérselas literalmente.
Yeah. So Puranas we have 18 plus 18 and more. That means 18 main primary Puranas, so 18, and another 18 are the secondary Puranas. So basically 18 plus 18, and also more are there, small Purana, etc. So it's like a vast, huge literature. And here, it's also at times it's also very profound. Also, at times very profound philosophical teachings are given, but more like highlighting and elaborating bhakti yoga. More bhakti yoga is more elaborated. So common people they can connect easily through bhakti, devotion. So emotional feeling, that emotional feeling, etc. So bhakti comes. And also mantras, mantras and all the mantra yoga, you can say the mantra yoga is elaborated very much. And of course, you can see all the Raja Yoga also, you can see Jnana Yoga also. But so by and large, it's more like a Bhakti. Bhakti is the
Yes.
primary source.
Okay. En estas Puranas hay tantas que son aproximadamente unas 18, más 18 y más, pero son 18 y 18 principales. Y en estas lo que se enseña de todo, hay enseñanzas muy profundas ahí, y sobre todo es bhakti, es devoción, crear unas emociones, unos sentimientos para entrar en esa vibración que es la devoción, ¿no? Y también se enseña también jnana, se enseña Raja Yoga, pero sobre todo es bhakti, y también mucho mantra yoga, ¿ok? Hay muchos mantras, entonces hay mucho conocimiento muy profundo metido en esos Puranas, en esas historias.
Yeah. So in the Puranas, you can see the concept of what is called the anthropomorphism,
Yes.
So the ultimate reality is given a form and shape, like humanizing the divinity, humanizing the divinity.
Yes.
So humanizing the divinity in order to divinize the humanity, So humanizing the divinity in order to divinize the human. So this is even more prominence here, and that anthropomorphism and anthropocentrism, anthropomorphism and human centrism, So this is the more elaborated in the Puranas.
Y en los Puranas también está la parte antropomórfica, ¿ok? Donde están esos dioses en el que se humaniza la divinidad para divinizar el ser humano, ¿ok? Entonces ahí están todos esos seres con formas, porque están humanizando la divinidad. Entonces salen todas esas formas que son los que crean esas historias de los Puranas.
Yeah. So these are the Puranas. And here you can see that the various theories about the creation. It starts from the creation, cosmogony, and how the whole creation is not different from the divine. So the whole creation exists in one divinity, oneness of the whole thing. And at the same time, you can see the duality, the various forms of the divinity, various incarnations of the God. So the absolute incarnation, one reality only appears in different forms, So that's the main concept. There's not many gods, It's not like many gods, and it's not like one reality appears, like one sun shining in a billion dewdrops, like only one, but it's appearing in a billion dewdrops. So the appearances are many, but one sun is only one. So like that, reality is one, but it appears in many forms. So this is explained in the
Very good. Purana. Very good. Entonces, en los Puranas también se explica toda la parte de cosmología. Siempre hay muchos seres que aparecen ahí, pero es importante entender que es la divinidad, que es una, mostrándose en diferentes formas. No es que hay muchísimos dioses, es que es la divinidad, el sol brillando en miles de gotas. Es una esencia mostrándose en diferentes formas.
Yeah. So and also the worshipping and so bhakti yoga, praising this divinity, the incarnations, and the stotras. Stotras means you praising the God. All these things are very elaborately discussed here, and a lot of metaphysics also there. All the metaphysics and the philosophy also there, very much there. So yes, this is the Purana, and also the divine appearing is not only as a god, but also goddess. So we have Bhagavatam. We have Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is mainly about the stories of the Krishna, Sri Krishna. Plus, we have Devi Bhagavatam. So the Devi Bhagavatam describes about the goddess. So absolute reality in the form of goddess. Yeah.
Okay. Entonces, también hay una parte que se llama Bhagavatam, que es donde hablan de Krishna, pero también hay uno que se llama Devi Bhagavatam, que ahí habla de toda la parte de las diosas, ¿ok? Entonces, también se habla de un montón de divinidades femeninas, masculinas, pero son todo expresiones de una realidad, ¿ok? Lo que pasa es que entra en el dualismo y entonces ahí se expresan como dioses, diosas y miles de formas.
Yeah. So this is the Purana. So and, yeah. So 18 plus 108. There are another 108. That more is another 108 are there. It's a huge, huge literature is there. So yeah. So this is the Puranas. Okay. So now we have next one is so Agama. Yeah. Okay. So Agama also known as Tantra. Okay. So this
Tantra.
is another huge subject literature. So Agamas. So literally meaning Agama is that which comes down. Agama, that which comes down. That means what? So the teachings of the Vedas only elaborated much more. I mean, much more. It's elaboration. So, and there are three kinds of agamas. So 3 kinds of agamas. There are Vaishnava agamas, Shaiva agamas, and Shakta agamas. So main 3 divisions are there. So Vaishnava agama and Shaiva and Shakta.
Okay. El siguiente apartado se llaman ágamas o tantra también. Ahí es gigante, la literatura que hay es gigante, es grandísima. Ágamas significa lo que baja, entonces es conocimiento de los Vedas grandísimo, y ahí hay 3 divisiones que son las que le acaban de nombrar.
Yeah. So, when you say agama, so also it's a tantra, you can say tantra. So literally tantra means it's a technique, an expansion. So literally meaning a technique, or you can say it's an expansion of the teachings. Like so, these agamas, tantras, they talk about what is called Saguna Brahma. Saguna Brahma. So there are 2 aspects. Reality has got 2 aspects. So one is Nirguna Brahma, so attributeless, reality without any attributes, any physical attributes. So that reality without any attributes is like Vedas and Upanishads. So you can say Ramayana, it's all like a more values and the philosophical teachings. So that's without attributes, you can say. But so reality with attributes, it's called the Saguna Brahma. Saguna means with attributes. So you give the form and you give all the attributes. So this is what is. So this is the Saguna Brahma. So for the sake of worship, the Saguna Brahma is for the sake of worship. So that Saguna Brahma is elaborated, is explained here in the Agamas and Tantras.
Ok. Entonces, en esta parte del Tantra hay 2. Tantra, por su parte, significa técnica o expansión de las enseñanzas. Y ahí hay una parte que se llama Nirguna Brahma, que es la parte que no tiene atributos, no tiene forma, que esos son los Vedas, los Upanishads, toda esa parte filosófica que no tiene forma. Y hay otra parte que se llama Sarguna, ¿ya? Sarguna Brahma.
Sadguna.
Ok. Sadguna tiene atributos. Y ahí es donde entra el worship, que es la devoción hacia una figura, hacia algo que ya tiene atributos. ¿Ok? Todo esto entra dentro del Tantra. Yeah.
So, Sadguna or Saguna. Saguna is enough. Saguna.
Okay.
Saguna.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
with attributes. Saguna. So, in the Saguna Brahma, so all this, the forms are given for the divinity and various forms. And so then we have this concept of what is called, the Trimurti concept, Trimurti.
Trimurti,
Trimurti concept we have, So the absolute reality is invoked from 3 standpoints. So absolute reality appears in 3 different forms, from the standpoint of the creation, from the standpoint of the sustenance, and from the standpoint of the dissolution, dissolution. So this is what we call it Trimurti, the concept of Trimurti, So And so this Trimurti and the worship, various forms of invoking this, so all the temple, so the temple construction, and this is the energy teachings, you can say, energy channeling techniques, energy teachings, and all, because when you say Saguna means attributes. Attributes means the whole energy spectrum. The whole energy spectrum comes, So Nirguna is a pure consciousness, but Saguna means so the whole creation. So consciousness and energy, conscious energy. So this is what is energy teachings and channeling techniques.
Entonces, esta parte de worshiping, de adoración, ¿no? Es la parte que toma forma y es la parte de canalizar la energía. Aquí esto es una parte muy importante, porque aquí sale el concepto de Trimurti, que son las tres energías, y esto es muy importante en el conocimiento hindú, porque de esto entra la parte de cómo están hechos los templos, de cómo se entiende la energía a tres niveles, ¿ok? Esto es muy importante y luego él va a ir explicando todo esto, pero de aquí, de esta parte, de la parte que tiene atributos del Saguna Brahma, es donde nace la parte del concepto de la Trimurti, que son las tres energías.
Yeah. So in the Agamas we have the Vaishnava Agamas. So Vaishnava Agamas means all the techniques, all the energy channel techniques, and the worshipping techniques, how to worship the yes. Saguna Brahma, how to worship the Vishnu. And the Vishnu is the one who sustains the whole universe, one who sustains that aspect of the reality, that which sustains the whole universe, So that's the Vishnu. So the yes. Vishnu, the very concept of the Vishnu means that energy that which sustains the whole universe, So that is already there in the Vedas, in an abstract form, abstract. But here it's given more form,
Yes.
And to worship that Vishnu.
Yes.
All the temple conception of the Vishnu. This is what is in the Vaishnava Agamas. Same thing with the Shaiva Agamas also. So Shaiva means the worshipping of the Shiva. The Shiva in the particular Shiva form, and other the various incarnations of the Shiva. So all the temple, the construction of the temples, and we will see that a little more elaborately. So what are the different teachings of the Agamas? Agamas. Yeah. So that's Shiva.
Yes. Okay, entonces la primera parte de estas Agamas es de ese Trimurti es Vishnu. Okay, Vishnu es el mantenedor del universo, es el que mantiene el equilibrio, es el equilibrador del universo. Esto es muy importante porque hay muchos templos que van a rezar, a adorar a uno de estos. Y estos textos enseñan cómo adorar a esas energías, cómo canalizar esas energías, que en los Vedas han estado ahí esas energías, hablando de esas energías sin forma, pero aquí toman una forma para poder ser canalizadas, ¿ok? Entonces, Vishnu es el equilibrador del universo. El segundo, por ejemplo, Shiva, que es el que hace la destrucción o la disolución del universo. Entonces, hay muchos templos que siguen o que canalizan esa energía de Shiva.
Yeah. And more importantly, we have, so what is called, we have Shakta Tantra. So Shakta Tantra. So in the Shakta Tantra means the worship of the Shakti, so the divine goddess, So the Mula Prakriti. So in Sankhya language, we have Purusha and Prakriti, The Purusha is the pure consciousness. Prakriti is the energy aspect. So in the Agamas, so we are highlighting so energy aspect. And there also we have this goddess worship, So that is what Shakti, Shakta Tantras. The Shakta Tantra, the worshipping the absolute in the form of goddess. Divinity, feminine divinity. Divinity in the form of feminine. So that's what it is. Shakta.
Y la tercera forma de energía es el Shakta Tantra, que es el Shakti, es la energía femenina, la divinidad femenina, que en Sankhya Yoga se llamaría Prakriti. ¿ok? Entonces es la parte femenina, la energía de la diosa, de la creación, y es estudiado en Shakta Tantra.
Yeah. So the Shakti means energy. So goddess. So energy is a feminine. So Shakti. So this Shakti in the Vedas, the Shakti is like a Bhudevi. So Bhudevi means the whole, all the you know the creation, the power of creation and the sustenance and the nurture, you know. So Bhudevi. So this is the the whole creation is looked upon as the feminine divinity, you know, the Prakriti. So these concepts are in the Vedas as we can see this in the Bhu Suktam and Sri we have various suktas, you know, highlighting and praising the goddess, you know, Sri Suktam. So we have Bhu Suktam, like the Meda Suktam. So Meda Suktam, like that various suktas are there. So those suktas are the roots of the Shaktism, Shakti. So worshipping the nature. So worshipping the nature as divine. So that's the. So it has got abstract forms in the Vedas, but more elaborated in the Agamas and Tantra.
Entonces en estos Agamas, la parte de Shakti, la parte creadora de la diosa, la forma que toma es la naturaleza, que es la creación, ¿ok? Entonces esa es la parte para rezarle a esa energía, canalizar esa energía. Ellos utilizan la naturaleza como fuerza creadora femenina, que es la diosa.
Yeah. So, and also we have Saura Agama and Ganapati Agama, but not much. So it was there earlier, but not many people worship now. These aspects. So Saura means basically the worship of the sun. You know? So in the Vedas, we worship the sun as abstract. The very famous Gayatri mantra, you know, the very famous Gayatri mantra is so worshipping the divinity in the form of sun, you know. And earlier they used to have temples for the sun also, but we don't see much now because the sun is you know, considered as one of the aspect of the Vishnu. That's why they are part of the Vaishnava Agamas, you know, Vaishnava Agamas. But they used to be sun Saura Agamas, but not many is available now. At the same time, we have Ganapati. Ganapati means the Ganesha, Lord Ganesha. You know, the Ganapati Agamas. Some people do worship now, but not much. It's all more prominent now. We Vaishnava, Shaiva, and Shakta.
Ok. Entonces también hay otras dos formas de devoción que ahora ya no se lleva tanto, ya no hay tanta gente adorando, por ejemplo, al sol. Antes había muchos templos que adoraban al sol, pero ahora se considera como parte de Vishnu, que es el mantenedor del universo. Pero antes había grupos de gente que adoraba al sol y, por ejemplo, el Gayatri Mantra es un mantra de adoración al sol. Y también el siguiente es de adoración a Ganesha, la energía que canaliza Ganesha, pero ahora no hay tanta gente que hace worshipping a Ganesha, no tanto como Vishnu o Shiva o Shakti. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. So this briefly. Later we will see a little more elaborately because lot of yoga is there in the tantra. So much of yoga is there. All kinds of all the schools of yoga you can see there. So we will see that little more elaboration of the Agama and Tantra separately. We will do after this. So now. Next comes what is called darshanas. You know? So darshanas are the philosophical systems. It's more like a philosophy again, you know, abstract, more abstract. But so these darshanas are again the teachings of the Upanishads. You know, mainly Upanishads. So elaboration of the Upanishads. What are the central teachings of the Upanishads? That is explained in the darshanas. So the 6 systems of philosophy. So these are there are 6 darshanas.
Okay. Yes. Entonces ahora vamos a pasar a las darshanas, que son los 6 sistemas de filosofía hindú. Y en ellos se trata sobre todo los Upanishads. Y son sistemas son otra vez sistemas filosóficos. Y son 6 principales, 6 sistemas filosóficos o darshanas.
Yeah. So this we will elaborate later because
Yes.
we are going to study yoga and Vedanta mainly.
Mhm.
So there are, just to enumerate, we have Nyaya system,
Mhm.
Nyaya Darshana, Vaiseshika Darshana, Sankhya Darshana, Yoga Darshana, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. So these are the plus yes, these are the main, and also we have four types of Buddhistic darshanas, you know,
Mhm.
and also two types of Jaina darshana, etc. And also we have another one that is Charvaka darshana. So that all we will see later more elaborately.
Mhm.
So we are going to study more elaborately anyway. Yoga darshana. This is our focus, you know. So Sankhya Yoga they go together, and also so we Sankhya Yoga we study along with the Vedanta darshana. So it's a complete. Yeah.
Yes. Entonces, dentro de las dársanas hay 6 dársanas que son sistemas filosóficos. Uno es Niyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta. And what is the other one? I missed one. Is Niyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta, and
Sankhya Yoga, Mimamsa.
Mimamsa, Mimamsa.
Mimamsa.
Y la otra es Mimamsa. Cada una hablan de los Upanishads, pero tienen diferentes puntos de vista. Vamos a entrar en esto en toda la parte, también en toda la parte de Tantra, porque como vamos a entrar en el yoga más profundamente, pero es importante saber que hay algunas que son como hermanas, como parejas. Entre ellas está el Sankhya y el yoga que van juntos. Entonces vamos a estudiar bastante Sankhya y yoga y también Vedanta. Pero vamos a estudiarlo después de esto más en profundidad.
Yeah. So, and lastly we have Siddhanta Granthas. So Siddhanta. So it's called Siddhanta Grantha. So Siddhanta Granthas are, so there are main 18 of them are there, 18 Siddhanta Granthas. So you can define the Siddhanta Grantha as established principles in different branches of the science. So it's like established principles. Siddhanta means so established principles.
And this is science, you say?
In various branches of the science.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ajá. Entonces esta parte, está la otra parte que es Siddhanta Grantha, que también son 18 formas de ese conocimiento y está bastante relacionado también con la parte científica.
Yeah. So Siddhanta means a principle.
Principle.
It's like a established principle. Like we have so doctrines. So you can establish doctrine. Yeah. Principles. So,
okay. Dentro de este Siddhanta Grantha hay principios o doctrinas que son esas 18 que se estudian ahí.
Yeah. So I'll give an example so you can see.
Yes.
So these are the established principles in different branches of the science. So for example, we have so the Siddhantas, the established, the Siddhanta Granthas in astronomy,
Astronomy,
in cosmology, So based on the teachings of the Vedas, they have experimented, they have expanded, and they come up with the tested principles. So that, right? So we have Siddhantas in astronomy, cosmology. We have in Ayurveda. For example, Ayurveda. So in Ayurveda we have Sushruta Samhita. Sushruta Samhita is the surgery.
Book. Yeah.
The surgery. So surgery and medicine.
Surgery. Yeah.
So one example I give you in Ayurveda. So what they have established, they still follow till today because it's the established principle.
Yes.
Correct.
Wow. Entonces, por ejemplo, en esta parte es la parte más científica, donde se habla de doctrinas y principios científicos. Todo viene de los Vedas, del conocimiento védico, y ahí hay astronomía, cosmología, Ayurveda. En el Ayurveda hay un libro principal que todavía se siguen, los principios se siguen hoy en día, de cirugía, de medicina profunda y con un conocimiento védico que hoy en día se utiliza para sanar y para operar gente. Imagínense.
So we have, just for an idea, so we have the Siddhantas. So in the fields of astronomy, astrology, Ayurveda, cosmology, alchemy, calculus, commerce and business, administration, in yoga,
Wow.
So these are the Siddhantas. So mainly there are 18 of them are there.
Wow.
So 18 Siddhantas are there in different fields. Yeah.
Wow. Entonces, en esta parte hay 18, desde astronomía, astrología, cosmología, ayurveda, alquimia, cálculo, administración, de así hasta 18. Todo basado en la ciencia, con doctrinas, con principios bien estructurados, basado en el conocimiento védico, imagínense. Wow.
Yeah. So even Yoga Sutra, Yoga Sutra is also considered to be a Siddhanta because the principles are already established. So we are following them like that.
Yes.
And in Ayurveda, we have Sushruta Samhita, Charaka Samhita, like that we have. So same, those principles still today they follow.
Yes. Entonces aquí, por ejemplo, los Yoga Sutras están considerados como una parte de esto porque son las bases, son las cosas, son como la base, la doctrina básica del yoga. Y lo mismo con el Ayurveda. Hay varios libros que son la base, la estructura de toda la medicina ayurvédica.
Yeah. So now we will elaborate. So in the last class, I think we have explained Upanishads, Upanishads and Yoga Upanishads. Yeah, I think we have that. So anyway, so next class we are going to see, we are going to elaborate what is the Agamas and Tantras. So because in the Agama Tantra, not only yoga, all the pranayamas, all the so a lot of asana, all the pranayamas.
Yes.
Mainly mantra. Mantra is a central theme in the Agamas and Tantras, and mantra is so central to yoga also. In fact, higher yoga starts with the mantras.
Yes.
And all these things, the sacred geometry and the mudras, etc., they're all part of the.
Yes, I think it's very important to clarify all this because there is so much misunderstanding. Even today, I have a friend that she's a yoga teacher, and she was like many people in the West think that mantras are something religious, and this is very important to clarify. There is nothing to be scientific; it's science. And I think it's very important we touch this. Also about Tantra, I really want you to go clear about what is Tantra. There is so much misunderstanding of what is Tantra, mantras, everything, mudras, like so much misunderstanding. So I think it's very, very important because this part people is doing every day. And most people, they don't really understand why they do mantras, mudras, anything, So I think it's very important. Yeah.
So
I will translate what you said before. Entonces, en el próximo capítulo vamos a hablar de lo que es el Tantra, también de la parte central del Tantra, que es los mantras. Mantras es la parte central del Tantra y del yoga, y vamos a hablar también de los mudras, de toda la geometría sagrada. Vamos a clarificar toda esa parte porque yo les estaba diciendo que en los países occidentales hay muchísima mala interpretación de lo que es el Tantra, de lo que son los mantras. Se cree que son cosas religiosas cuando no tienen nada que ver con una religión. Los mantras, los mudras, ¿para qué se hacen? ¿Por qué se hacen? Mucha gente está haciendo cosas que no tiene ni idea para qué los hace. Vamos a clarificar qué es esa parte, qué es todo eso, para qué sirve.
Yeah. So, see, mantra is purely a cosmic sound phenomenon. It's all it's a natural phenomena of the cosmos and the sound. And the whole, whatever is there in the cosmos, in the macrocosm, is there in the microcosm. So using this natural sound phenomena, we are purifying the mind and heart, and finally we are realizing the self. So that's purely scientific. So this is a part of the Agamas and Tantra. We will see next class.
Yes, very good. Very good. Entonces, él dice que la parte de los mantras es muy importante porque son sonidos del universo, que así como el macrocosmos y el microcosmos, esos sonidos están ahí arriba y están abajo, adentro de nosotros. Entonces, autorrealizando esos sonidos, podemos autorrealizar nuestro verdadero ser. Por eso es tan importante y es puro científico. Entonces, todo esto lo vamos a ver en la próxima clase.
Yeah.
Yes,
so, it's a purely scientific, absolutely purely scientific, and we can, we will understand the metaphysics of the sound, mantra, Shabda Brahma, and the walk. Shabda Brahma is a macro, and the walk is the micro. And through the walk is a mantra, and through we connect with that. So only yesterday I did a class. So I gave the whole thing. You see. So this is the maybe not now, no, because it's a huge thing. You'll be in the next class.
Yes.
The whole sound phenomena, how in the cosmic level and at the individual level, and how this helps to connect with through mantras and bija mantras, etc. We'll do that in the next class.
Very good. Okay, so the next class will be about mantras or tantra in general. You will explain about tantra and after go to mantras, or first mantras?
First agama and tantra.
Agama and tantra.
Mantra is a part of that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. We will develop this because this is very, very important to clarify and go deep and have very clear base after we can understand what we are doing, why we are doing, and do it with more pure heart, without doubts. No, so many people doubts, and it's very bad because they mess up everything. So very good. Yeah, thank you so much, Keshava, for unfolding all this such a extensive and complicated knowledge. But this is universe, this is us. It's simple, but it's complex. Muchísimas gracias. Le doy a Keshava para que vaya abriendo todo este conocimiento que es tan complejo y tan sencillo, pero tan infinito para nosotros. De esta manera, entonces, el próximo día vamos a entrar en agamas y tantra para ir abriéndonos hacia la parte de los mantras y comprender toda esa parte. Very good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And
thank you very much.
We will continue next day. Muchas gracias. Nos vemos pronto. Estén atentos.